Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons!
West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. Everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. Everywhere we go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the West Ham Massive. Thank you for joining me. Please don't forget to like, comment on and share this stream onto your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Make sure you hit the bell icon for alerts and new content. All these actions you can take are free of charge to you. They take a couple of seconds of your time and they help to grow the channel from its current position on to bigger and better things, hopefully. So we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. I've also put something on the channel on the bit where you put all the bits and pieces. I can't remember what they bloody call it now. Let me have a quick look. Community, on the community tab. If any of you guys are on Facebook, we do have a Facebook group on there. So if I could direct you towards the community tab on the YouTube channel, it tells you the links on there for the Facebook group for the West Ham Massive. If any of you are on Facebook, please do consider joining it at your leisure. So we're here to discuss match day 3 of 38. West Ham United 1, Manchester United, the champions for the last 4 seasons, 3. Yeah, it was a game that probably, in terms of the outcome, was not a million miles away from what I suspected the outcome would be. Just keep an eye on the ticker at the bottom. It will intermittently change and give up different pieces of information that are relevant to the game, such as the officials. Just going to have a little look before I go too much further, just to see which of you are on the live chat at the moment. Please don't be afraid to jump in with a hello, just to let us know you're there. Hammerette, how you doing? Hope you're well. Kilman has impressed me the most so far because of the hefty price tag. I was expecting him to be another expensive waste of money. Yes, just as well, there is, if you're not watching this on YouTube, if you go over to YouTube, I've got a poll running at the moment where I've asked a question regarding who has been the most impressive summer signing so far. And I think there were 3 options that I put down: Wan-Bissaka, Kilman and Rodriguez. The reason why I didn't include any others is, quite frankly, we've got not that much to go on. They're the 3 that have played the most in the terms of minutes. So I think that to put down other people like Guilherme, Fulkrug, Somerville, Fotheringham, Soler, well, look, we've either seen nothing of them or we've seen very little. So I think it's difficult to actually sort of like say whether but those 3 have played a significant quantity of the minutes so far. So I've put them. So if you got a thought on that, please feel free to get involved in that. Larry's in from Lexington. How are you doing, mate? Hope you are well. Gemma's in as well. Hope you are good and having a fantastic weekend, and you've relaxed and you're ready to go back to work, ready and refreshed to go to work tomorrow. Nobody ever is. Darren, hope you're well. AWE has impressed me most because of his performances and price. Fair assessment. And Andrew, hope you're doing well, mate. Evening, everyone. AWB is an absolute steal. Well, there we go. So we got Kilman and AWB have been mentioned in dispatches. Right. Okay. So let me add this to the production. So we're obviously going to talk about the game that unfolded yesterday against Man.City. Now, I think that I obviously said in the preview we would be hard pressed to get anything out of it. And as long as we put in a performance that I think would have pushed Manchester City to the brink, I would have been happy. Now, in my opinion, I think we were second best. I'm not going to sort of like try and sit here and say that we were the better team and that we were unlucky to lose. Manchester City, hands up, they were the better team than us. Absolutely not a problem admitting that. They're, in my opinion, one of the 2 best club teams in world football. It's between them and Real Madrid. But this was the starting 11 that the head coach Julien Lopetegui put out to face Manchester City at the London Stadium yesterday. So we had Areola in goal. The resource that I used put it down as a 4-3-3, whether it was indeed that or whether it was a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-2-3-1. You pays your money, takes your choice. But the resource that I've used put it down as a 4-3-3. So that's what it is down on here. So we had the back four was Emerson left, Wan-Bissaka right, Kilman and Mavropanos were the centre-back pairing. Jean-Claire Todibo remained on the bench for the entirety of the game. He was not utilised for whatever reason. I've heard whispers that he might have had a slight knock, so that might be the reason why he wasn't risked. We then had a midfield comprising of Edson Alvarez making his first start in a Premier League game for a little while, since obviously the injury that he got at the Copa America. He was partnered by his former Club America teammate, Guido Rodriguez, the Argentinian international. Lucas Paquetá was also included in the starting lineup. We had an offensive trio of Kudus on the left, Bowen on the right, obviously got with the captain's armband, and Michail Antonio. If we also look at the Manchester City starting lineup, now that was a glittering array of talent. It's, you look at it and you just go, goodness. And you even look at the bench that they had, both the subs that were used and the subs that weren't even used. I mean, goodness me, you've got one of England's premier centre-backs sitting on the bench, not kicking a ball. And Rodri. Now, okay, Rodri was on the bench largely because he was injured and he was on the comeback trail. So maybe Pep didn't feel that this was the time to risk him. But look at that starting lineup, guys. So it was Ederson in goal, a back three, left to right of Gvardiol, Diaz and Akanji. Sitting in front of them was Mateo Kovacic, who was a bit of a doubt before the game started, as we alluded to on the preview, and Rico Lewis, and then across the midfield four. Now, this was a little bit of a surprise, but when you stop and think about it, actually, I could probably see this coming. Jeremy Doku was on the right. Normally, he's deployed on the left, but I wonder whether Pep was looking back to the FA Cup final when Wan-Bissaka just basically snuffed out any offensive threat that Doku had, just put him in his pocket. And I wonder whether Pep, remembering that, is the reason why he put Doku on Manchester City's right and our left. So he had him coming into direct competition with Emerson as opposed to Wan-Bissaka. But yeah, Grealish on the left, Doku on the right, and De Bruyne, the captain, and Bernardo Silva was in this middle, and just in front. I mean, look at that. The more Norwegian powerhouse, Erling Haaland, who obviously, as we now know, went on to complete a hat-trick against our boys. Also, if you look at the subs that were used, the club captain, Kyle Walker, was utilised, Nathan Ake, Mateus Nunes, and the returning Ilkay Gundogan. Obviously, he's had a year at Barcelona, and then he's decided to come back to the team and the blue half of Manchester. Now, as far as the game went, we started quite well. I thought, in actual fact, I thought that we had a really good opportunity. 3 minutes in, it was a shot that Jared Bowen received the ball on the right-hand side. He cut inside as he often does, let fly with a shot. Any other goalkeeper possibly puts, doesn't get enough on it, but he made a really strong parry, did Ederson, and it was a swerving effort. I think on another day that goes flying in and we go 1-0 up. Sadly, on this occasion, it wasn't to be. City had a few other little phases of play in the time between Bowen's shot and Haaland getting the opener on the 10th minute. There was an opportunity on 6 minutes, but Erling Haaland couldn't make the best of it. It was a good little combination between both Jack Grealish and Bernardo Silva on the left-hand side of the penalty box. It was a cross to Haaland at the back stick, but he got it all wrong. But I mean, he managed to sort things out. 4 minutes later, It was a wayward ball. Paquetá, I'm not too sure. Is it Paquetá's fault? Is it Emerson's fault? I think they're both culpable, but obviously it was Paquetá that was robbed. The ball was slid through from Silva to Erling Haaland, couple of paces, bang, puts it past Alphonse Areola and puts the blue half of Manchester 1 goal to the good. It was then sort of like a little bit of a period of, I wouldn't say dominance, but control, certainly that Manchester City exerted. In actual fact, if you, before we get onto the goal, literally just before that, maybe a minute or two before, De Bruyne had a shot that it was bending, and if it had just if he'd have managed to be like another sort of 6 inches further back from when he struck the ball, I think the curvature on the flight of the ball, it probably hits the inside of the post and goes in for 2-0. But again, if it's a small word but a big meaning, it hit the woodwork and we managed to get away with it. The ball obviously dropped to Grealish, but he put the rebound over. But then we come to the goal. Now, Paquetá, who I am going to talk about a little bit more detailed as we go along, for what I think he brought to the party yesterday. But he did manage to have a little bit of a good influence in terms of our forward play, in that it was his ball that released Jared Bowen on the right-hand side. And Jared Bowen sent us the ball in. It was a low teasing cross. Ruben Dias was stretching to try and make the block, make the clearance. Unfortunately, he got things a little bit wrong, and on the 19th minute, it was 1-1, and the London Stadium rejoiced. And from that point on, although we were still in the game, make no mistake about it, it was still City very much that control things. As I say, they've got, even when they're not quite at their best, they managed to somehow sort of fashion out opportunities and all the rest of it. But I mean, they were playing well, but we weren't rolling over and having our tummies tickled. And as I say, that was all that I ever really wanted, was to look at the team and have a team that was really giving it a go. And I think that we were doing that in the first half, and I was keeping my fingers crossed that we could get in halftime 1-1, and then obviously the manager could maybe make a couple of little tactical changes, a couple of little substitutions, maybe slightly catch Pep off guard, perhaps. It's a tall order, but Julien Lopetegui is no mug manager. Very tactically astute. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to get in at halftime at 1-1, because Erling Haaland again had something to say about that. It was a move where it was like ping, 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 ping. It was like FIFA, to be honest with you. There was a run from, I think it was Grealish, if I remember correctly, a run from Jack Grealish. He goes into the penalty box on their left-hand side, our right. And then from there, it was like 1-2 touch, 1 touch, 2 touch, 1 touch, 2 touch. It comes to Haaland. He takes 1 touch to control it. It was a short pass from Rico Lewis. 1 touch to control. 2nd touch is the shot. Fires it past Alphonse Areola in the West Ham goal. Makes it 2-1. And yeah, it was a bit of a sort of like wind out of your sails moment, because I think, as I say, up to that point, we'd actually been doing pretty well. Like I say, I'm not going to say we was dominating or controlling even. City were definitely controlling. Not dominating, they were controlling the game. There was another opportunity a little bit later on, maybe about 8 minutes or so later, where Haaland played in Rico Lewis and he put a shot just over the bar, and we managed to get away with it. And then obviously we get to halftime. There was actually an opportunity just before the interval, before the whistle. It was a 20-yard free kick by Kevin De Bruyne, who managed to put the ball just over the crossbar. Again, close but no cigar. We obviously come out for the second half, and there was a change that the manager made. Now, I led to believe, and I've heard different stories. Some people say it was a concussion. I'm not too sure if that's the case or not. But certainly the end result of the issue was that Lucas Fabianski came on, and it was Alphonse Areola that made way. Not a substitution that I had any real fear of. I mean, yes, I would say that probably the one thing that it denied us would be a better quality of distribution, generally speaking. Having said that, I don't think that in terms of their shot stopping abilities that there's a huge amount to choose between the two goalkeepers. So I wasn't really sort of fazed by that. It was fine. But I was keeping my fingers crossed that we're still 2-1 down, but we're still in this. Let's see what we can do. Let's not give away anything stupid in the first 5-10 minutes of the second half. And then we had an opportunity, 7 minutes into the second half. And it was a nice little bit of play. It was a breakaway attack. Manchester City were on the attack. The moves broke down, and we've managed to break with speed, with accuracy into the Manchester City half. They were still disorganized, disjointed. And between Bowen and Kudus, there was 1-2 that took place. Kudus played in Bowen. Bowen played in Kudus. He carried on his run. He had a shot, absolutely thunderbolt, hits the woodwork, and again on another day it flies in. It's 2-2, but on yesterday's play, it was unfortunately it hits the woodwork, and that was an opportunity that was missed. I felt then, to be honest with you, as I was in the stadium, that was probably going to come back to bite us on the arse, because to be fair, there's not too many more opportunities that you're probably going to fashion in a 90-minute match, and unless you're Real Madrid against Manchester City, and we're not, quite frankly. It was a shame, because I think that when I remember when I watched it in real time and just before he had the shot, I remember thinking to myself that one of the touches he had was slightly too heavy, took the ball a little bit further away from him than probably he wanted. And that was probably the critical moment as far as that passage of play was concerned. As I say, hits the woodwork, and the opportunity was lost. There was also a good save from Fabianski that happened a little bit later on. It was a bit of good work by Jack Grealish on the left-hand side, who actually I thought had a good game. He cuts it back. Bernardo Silva doesn't quite make a good contact enough on the shot. Fabianski makes the save. There's obviously then a couple of substitutions that start to take place, for both teams in for various reasons. Personnel sort of like are starting to flag, or tactically. There was one substitution that this is one that I sort of sit there and go, that's a position I think we needed to work. Again, Emerson Palmieri, a left back, comes off the pitch, and it's Vladimir Kufal that replaces him, and there was a shift of Wan-Bissaka over to the left-hand side again. Now, I know he played there against Bournemouth, and we all thought he had a good game, and he did. I'm not saying he didn't, but I do think that fundamentally we missed an opportunity to strengthen at left back. I do wonder if that's going to sort of be something that hinders us, because even though Vladimir Kufal, he's a decent enough player, I think we all know that he's on the way down, hence why we signed Wan-Bissaka, right? And that's 2 games now that we've had to put a player out of position in Wan-Bissaka, shifting him over to the left-hand side, and then putting a player that, let's be honest, we've essentially replaced him with Wan-Bissaka and put him on the bench, but now he's going to get games at right back when Wan-Bissaka shifting over to left back when the incumbent's got an injury or whatever. I think we've made a mistake there. That's just my opinion. We obviously saw Nicholas Fulkrug coming on as well for Antonio. Antonio, I've got to be honest, I thought was largely ineffective. Didn't think he really offered too much. I was quite pleased though when Jack Grealish come off. I thought, as I say, I thought personally, and you may disagree, I thought he had a pretty decent game. But in terms of sort of like the possession, in terms of how the game unfolded, I thought for what I would have expected us to have in terms of possession, it was probably about right. I certainly think that I believe we gave a better account of what we would have done had the previous manager been in harness. And look, it's one of those hypotheticals. It's an opinion I have. I can't prove it one way or the other. But I do think that the manager on the touchline was instrumental in getting the sort of like the troops rallied and not rolling over and having their tummies tickled. That if we were going to go down, we were going to go down fighting. Unfortunately, all the fight was knocked out of us on the 83rd minute. Haaland on a hat trick. He's played through by Matthias Nunes, and he as soon as the ball went to him, I just knew. I was like, he's not going to miss that. He flicks it over the advancing Lucas Fabianski. It goes into the back of the net, 3-1, and you knew that was that. There wasn't any way back from that point, with all due respect. And look, we played well. I think that we can't be too sort of downhearted about it. But I thought that we played well. I think, in all honesty, for me, I think 3-1 kind of flatters them. I think that third goal from Haaland just give them a little bit more credit than maybe they were due. But what you guys are going to put in what you're going to put in the comment section. But I mean, I'm also going to put up the stats as well. You can have a little look into that. If there's any of you guys that like your stats, I've accounted for you guys as well. You can have a look at that. But even sort of like there was again another opportunity for Haaland right at the end, which Fabianski managed to deal with. It was a 3-1 defeat at the end. I mean, there was a feeling to me of it was. We'd gone down fighting, and that's all I asked for at the beginning. That was all I asked for before the two teams took to the pitch. I wanted to see us. I knew we were up against it. I think anyone with a brain would turn around and say that we were going to be hard pressed to get a point. If we'd have got a point, that would have been a really good outcome. We didn't get a point, and as I say, I do think that a 3-1 scoreline flatters them tremendously. I think that a 2-1 reverse would have been a scoreline that would have been more reflective of how the two teams were competing. But sometimes in life, you don't get what you deserve. Sometimes, and that can be both ways. Sometimes you can be lucky and sometimes you can be unlucky. I think on this occasion, it was the latter. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, some of you guys might have even been at the match yesterday, and some of you might not, because I appreciate that some of you guys watching this either live or at a later stage, maybe in other parts of the world where obviously a trip to London Stadium is not terribly feasible. But I was pleased. I was proud. I had a little bit of disappointment in me that on another day, maybe if Kudus' effort goes in, it's 2-2, and from that point on, it might have been a completely different outcome. But it wasn't like ifs and ands were pots and pans. It's the old saying. But let me have a little look in the live chat, guys. I've been rabbiting away to myself, like an old woman. There'll probably be people saying that that's a sexist comment, but you know what I'm getting at. I'm just having a little bit of fun. Let's have a look. So Gemma went paddleboarding. I've never done that, and she's now burnt to a crisp. That's not good. Yeah, I thought that Wan-Bissaka, I did expect it to be that good, and I think that £15 million is an absolute bargain. I'm just going to rattle through some of these comments, a few little pleasantries that are just being exchanged and whatever. Happy Hammerette says our midfield was brilliant yesterday. Saw some positives and pleased to see that Loppy hasn't totally done a Moyes on Souček. It doesn't appear so, but yeah, Kilman is surprised. Everyone was saying he was overpriced. I mean, look, it's only a couple of games in, Trodge. I think until he's been with us a season and a half, 2 seasons, I think it's difficult to really say it's money well spent or money not well spent. But there you go. But yeah, I was to say, guys, let me know what you think. Was the 3-1 scoreline, was it a fair reflection on what you saw? Yeah, exactly that, Trodge. I mean, I'm brokenhearted, absolutely brokenhearted. Yeah, we've got obviously a break. It's the international break coming up. Well, it's actually now started. 3 games in, it's like bloody hell. Season's only just got started. Mind you, the poor little lambs will probably be complaining that they're absolutely exhausted, won't they? How you doing, Sharky? Hope you're well. I thought we played pretty well, absolutely. But I mean, Haaland's the difference. He absolutely is the difference. He is lethal He's like James Bond playing football, but instead of shooting bullets from a Woolworth PPK with unerring accuracy, he's firing the ball into the back of our bloody net. It is what it is, you know what I mean? But like I say, I thought we gave a really good account of ourselves. I really do. 2 hat-tricks in 2 games. Yeah, this is what you're up against. Be interested to see what happens with him when, as I'm sure it will happen. I'm sure that Real Madrid will one day come in with some ridiculous offer, and then he'll probably be off, won't he? You know, I'm not saying that Man City are not a glamour club, but there's just something about Real Madrid that I think if they come knocking on his door, talking to the representatives of Erling Haaland and whatever, I do wonder whether they'll be able to keep hold of him. Happy Amaret says, do wonder why Bowen is a lot quieter this season. I'm just thinking perhaps having no preseason, really, perhaps the pressure of being captain. Look, I think three Premier League games, 1 game in the cup. I mean, look, let's be honest. You say it's quiet. However, he's managed to do it in 4 games. He's got 2 goals, so I'm not quite sure that. Look, you're entitled to your opinion, and I don't think he's been quiet. I think he's been. He had obviously the Villa game and part of the Crystal Palace game where I think he was less effective than you're probably used to being. But I think probably what you're used to there, Happy, is that the bar of him is usually set so high. Now I'm going to come on to this. I think now's probably a good moment to talk about it. The performance of Lucas Paquetá. Now, I personally thought he had a pretty poor game. Right, I'm going to get it out there and get that out into the open. I thought he had a poor game. I also am going to say, is there any possibility he gets dropped for the next game? Now, is that going to be for Carlos Soler? Or is it going to be that maybe the manager brings Thomas Souček back into the starting lineup for the game against Fulham when we come back? I don't know. I got to be honest. On the basis of what I've seen, the first 3 games, and I'm excluding the Bournemouth Cup game here for my hypothesis. Those 3 games in the Premier League: home against Villa, away against Palace, home yesterday against Man City. Personally, I thought he has been poor. And I do wonder whether he's getting picked on reputation as opposed to form. Because I don't see that if you're going to pick on form, that that he gets in. Now, and this is kind of the point that I'm alluding to, which Andrew touches on, because I think that if Paquetá does get dropped, and I think he should be dropped, then that allows Kudus to be moved into the middle, because I don't think, and I'm not saying he's been totally ineffective on the left, but I don't think he's as effective on the left as when he's central or a more roaming role, or even on the right, you know, in all honesty. And again, it may well be that Bowen is shifted to the central striker. Now, do I think that moving Bowen as a central striker, do I think that he's as effective there as he is on the right? My personal opinion is no. However, something's got to change. Something has to change. I mean, I don't think we're getting the best out of Bowen. I don't think we're getting the best out of Kudus. I think they've got more to come. But Paquetá is something of a concern. Paquetá is, in my opinion, he is playing purely on his reputation. Anthony Martial and Andrew, 5 years or so ago, I'd have said yes. I now look at him and I think there is a reason why he's a free agent, because nobody fundamentally wants him. Oh yeah, and there's the man of the match. Now the Premier League do say man of the match. I know that Sky Sports and BBC have this propensity to term it as a player of the match, and they don't want to reference it by man of the match. But I you know, I'm a little bit old school, forgive me. It's a man of the match because it's men's football, but there you go. Yeah, he was obviously voted the man of the match on the Premier League website. And I think that you'd have to be some sort of moron to, you know, watch a game where a guy's scored a hat-trick and not vote for him as your man of the match. It's like he won the game for his team. But yeah, I think that for me, getting back to Paquetá, I think it's getting to a critical point in time now for the manager. I think he needs to make a decision. I think he needs to drop him, quite frankly. I don't think he deserves his place in the starting lineup. I know he's a wonderfully gifted player. I know he plays for Brazil. I know he's their playmaker and all those things that you want to sort of say. But I think that putting him as the sort of like the playmaker in that sort of role in the middle of the, if we're going to play 4-2-3-1 or 4-1-4-1 or 4-3-3 or whatever, he's occupying a place that fundamentally someone else could be taking, and we might be able to move the pieces of the jigsaw, because I do think there are players that are being played in a position that we're not getting the best out of them, and it's basically the catalyst for that is to remove Paquetá, who's bang out of form, and move those other pieces of jigsaw around. So if you're going to move Kudus into the centre, if you wanted to move Bowen as a striker, whatever you got to do, move the pieces of jigsaw around, and let's see what we can do. I have heard that, and yeah, there's a few other players besides. I mean, Mats Hummels is still free, I believe. You've got Sergio Ramos. In fact, I've actually got a little list here of players: Mario Hermoso, Mats Hummels, John Egan, the ex-Sheffield United centre-back, Serge Aurier. I wouldn't touch him for obvious reasons. Brandon Williams. Now, Brandon Williams was one that I looked at, because obviously Brandon Williams is ex-Man United. He was at Norwich for a spell. He's only 23 years of age. Now, he's actually a left-back by trade. The weird thing is that he's one of those anomalies where he's a right-footed left-back, as opposed to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's a right-footed right-back who can play left-back. Brandon Williams is a right-footed left-back, and he's perfectly comfortable there. I'm not saying he's the world's best player, but he's a freebie. And again, I do think that there's a couple of positions that, even despite the fact that we brought in 9 players, that we still need to bring in a few reinforcements here and there. Yeah, we played good football. You're absolutely correct there, David. We played good football. We stood up to be counted, but as I say, the quality was just there for all to see on the opposition. And as I say, I got my wish. I knew that we was going to get beat. I mean, it was one of those. Look, we had a puncher's chance, but it not much more than that. It was. But I can be proud, and I hope all of you guys can be proud and not overly critical that it's, maybe we should have done this. Look, realistically, as I say, we play them 10 times at London Stadium. We probably lose 7 or 8 of them. Let's be fair. And yeah, exactly that, Happy. We weren't that far getting an equaliser, as I say. On another day, Kuda's shot hits the underside of the inside of the woodwork, goes past Edison. It's 2-2. And from that point on, it's a completely different game, and you just don't know how it's going to unfold after that. And I agree with that, Peter. I mean, I don't know how many players are going to be going away internationally. I know that Bowen got picked for England. I'm not too sure the score with sort of like the other teams, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those. Usual, hope you're doing well. All very well. All very warm today. Hopefully no one got a sunburn. Oh, you naughty boy. Are you being, yeah, you're having a go at Gemma, aren't you? You're a naughty one. You really are. But I'll let you go. No, according to what I'm looking at, Happy, Matip is still a free agent. He may well be talking to Leverkusen. And he may ultimately go there, but he's as Peter says there, he is definitely a free agent. You thought he was in London, Larry? Oh dear. We're just going to go through some of your comments. Moyes focuses on negating the opposition. Lopetegui wants us to play our game. Very much old West Ham. Hope it don't include relegation. I completely agree. I don't think it will. I don't think it will at all. How you doing, Tony? Hope you are well. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just, because I was in a flow, I sort of get chatting and I sort of get into a position, and then I will come back to you. Don't worry, Sharky. I've not forgotten you're there. Just have faith. I'll be there. And that young lady is a very sexist comment, and I could probably go to the authorities and get you told off. And, I'm going to go into a corner and cry. How you doing, Colin? Hope you're well. Says, good evening, Gatesy. Much better performance. Yes. Like the team, a difference maker was that if we had Haaland, I think we would have won. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, though. I mean, we would never have gotten Haaland unless we'd have got him as a kid. I mean, right now, his price tag is more than probably what we could afford. That's for damn sure. But you're right. He was absolutely what separated the two teams. He was that much of a difference maker. But I do think that 3-1 was a scoreline that flattered them very, very slightly. I've got no complaints with the defeat. They were the better team. Absolutely, hands up. Good luck, Man.City. And I think if there's a team that finishes above them in the Premier League this season, they will be champions. But I think that will be a pretty short list of teams if it happens. But yeah, exactly what you say there about striker. That is another position that I think maybe we could have done with reinforcements and the signing, as I said before, the signing of Luis Guilherme just now looks even more strange because he's barely been involved, and I think he was involved on the bench, if I remember correctly, in this squad, but didn't come on. He wasn't involved in the first two squads in the Premier League, and I don't think he's been involved in under 21s games or anything, and we've spent 20 million quid on the geezer. We could have put that extra, a quantity of that 20 million quid, in my estimation, on getting whether it was the John Duran deal or whether we went elsewhere. I don't know. And as far as that's concerned, Peter, I think that obviously the signings now were mainly done by Tim Stein, and obviously Tim Stein would have been very acutely aware of who Nicholas Füllkrug is. That's just the way that it goes. The coach is there to sort of get the players that come in, the director of football or the sporting director, whatever his term is. He's the one that goes out, scouts, scopes out the players, does the schmoozing, does the negotiating with the opposition club, with the players' agents and all the rest of it. The player is then handed on to the coach. In this case, it's Julien Lopetegui, and that the coach is there to sort of get the very best out of that player, ingrain them in the team, and all the rest of it. And exactly that. I also believe that Nicholas Füllkrug is a Tim Stein signing. I'm not saying that Julien Lopetegui won't have an involvement in signings, hasn't an involvement in signings, won't have an involvement in signings going forwards, but it's going to be Tim Stein, and that's the long and the short of it as far as I'm concerned. She hasn't grown for a very long time, and she turns around to me and she said the other day, and I think from the other day, it was like 5'1.8". I mean, have you ever heard such nonsense in your life? You sort of like anyone sort of normal would turn around and say I'm 5'2", because no one's really going to pull you up. Actually, no, you're 5'1.8". Who's ever heard of 0.8 of an inch, for goodness sake? Just round it up. I mean, really. Just having a little sort of go through the comments. Larry says, how's she taking the start? Look, she's used to it now. She's absolutely used to that. Don't worry about that. Cyber, hope you're well. Flows. Now, for those of you that don't know what he's talking about, Flows is a very good pie and mash establishment in Crayford in Kent. Now, I say Crayford, Kent. It's Kent as far as the postal address is concerned, but because it's in the London borough of Bexley, it's actually London. I have this argument with people. Oh, no, it's Kent, it's London. It's like, look, can they vote in the mayoral elections? Yes, they can. Right, it's in London. Done. Whatever it says on the address is irrelevant. I mean, as far as address is concerned, Middlesex still exists, and they haven't existed for many years. Exactly that, Larry. It's they're still getting to grips with one another. So yeah, that's obviously our next game, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone sort of wants to know, obviously we play on the 14th of September at 3 p.m. at Craven Cottage. We've obviously got this international break nonsense. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. This Nations League, I know they turn around and say, oh, well, it's better than meaningless friendlies. But all you hear from footballers is the fact that they're playing too much and they're going to get burnt out and fixture congestion. And it's just a sort of another excuse for them to have a complain and a moan. But just getting to Tony's comment there, he agrees with me. Yeah, he was poor, and that's me being very generous. And he should have been hooked off, and I just wonder whether he's getting away with it simply through his reputation. Simple as that. Well, pack stats don't seem to back up how he's playing. What in which respect? I mean, like I say, I'll nail my colours to the mast. He should have been. I'm not convinced he should have started, if I'm being brutally honest. On the basis of the first two performances in the Premier League, I think most other players in claret and blue, if they'd have put out those types of performances in the first two games, I think that probably they would have not taken to the pitch yesterday. I just wonder whether, because he's a player with the reputation that he has, he's obviously got the price tag that he has. I guess one of the mitigating circumstances could potentially be that he's obviously going through it in terms of, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Is it quite a lot of emotional turmoil and whatever else that maybe he's going through. It's a mitigating circumstance, but at the end of the day, we can't carry passengers, and I feel sorry for him. If he's really going through the ringer, then I would have, maybe it's best for him that he is taken out of the firing line. And Kent's in, he agrees. Brandon Williams, 23 years of age as well, Kent. Personally, I think if we've got the finances and we can make the deal, I think that's a great signing, because if Emerson's injured, if Emerson's out of form, if Emerson's suspended, what's our option? Cresswell. I love Cresswell a bit, but he's done. If they've got a nippy right winger, he's going to get twisted like in knots. Oh, I'm good, Cyber. Thank you very much for asking. I do appreciate it. Hope you're well as well. Yeah, exactly. I mean, nine new signings, mate, is a lot. 9 new signings is a lot to make in one transfer window, and we've obviously got a lot of different characters to embed and sort of get to know each other. Yeah, I don't know what's gone wrong with him, mate. I'm not too sure, Glenn, why his career seems to have plateaued. I'm not too sure. Is it injury? Is it any multitude of reasons? Like I say, at the age of 23, he's still got his prime years ahead of him. Yeah, I mean, look, I did say Adrian, in fairness to Paquetá, he was obviously the guy that released Bowen, and obviously for the goal. So not everything he did yesterday was nonsense and rubbish. But as I say, I'm just making the point that I don't want this to come across like I'm going for him. But at the end of the day, he's a professional footballer. He's there to do a job, and at the minute, I don't think he's doing it particularly well. I feel there's a chance could be, but don't be surprised if others are. For Loppy, will not be afraid to drop anyone. Hope he does not bring Souček back. Loppy looking for free agents now. Souček's not done that badly. I'm not going to say that he's been the best, but he will give you work rate and endeavour. He's not going to sort of make the sort of like the defense splitting passes that Paquetá could make. They're completely different types of players. But I did feel a little bit aggrieved for Thomas Souček in terms of what he'd managed to do up to this point. But by comparison to Paquetá, I don't think that Paquetá's offered enough. We had a go yesterday, says Ken. Individual mistakes cost us, and a machine-like striker who is absolutely world-class was the difference. Not many teams will live with City and Haaland in that form. He was sensational, wasn't he? He just doesn't need too much of an opportunity. I mean, it was the second goal that I was like blown away by, the sort of like the ping, 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 boom, in. It was like watching a game of FIFA unfold in front of you. Just having a little look here. Ireland against England. Yeah, I dare say that Declan Rice will get a rip-roaring round of applause from the home fans. Apparently Alvarez is staying here rather than playing for Mexico. That's good to hear. That was a concern. I did sort of wonder whether about Lee Carsley, Cyber, former Ireland international as well. That's a bit of a weird dynamic, isn't it? Because the interim England manager used to play for Ireland. One of England's senior players in Declan Rice used to play for Ireland. So I can imagine that they will get a hearty reception. They will be they'll be very pleased to sort of welcome back to the Emerald Isle. Yeah, Duran, as far as I'm concerned, like I say, the money that we spent on Guilherme Happy, I do think could be better utilised into getting the Duran deal done, or even if we'd have sort of said, look, I don't think that represents good value for money, because I don't know, and I know it's early days, but I don't know about Fulkrug. I'm a little bit not too sure, but we'll wait and see how it goes. Colin says his sources tell him we went in to get Duran on loan. I'm not quite sure that would have got the job done, though, Colin. I mean, if we went in to get him on loan, I mean, what does that tell the player? I mean, this is a player that was told, from what I was told categorically, that we was after him. And then we go back in and say, I tell you what, we'll just borrow you for the season. I think if I was that player, I'd feel a little bit insulted, to be perfectly honest with you. Dave, hope you are well. I hope everything is good over in your neck of the woods. Yes, there is. There is a Flows in Folkestone. The original one is in Crayford. And then the owner there, I think his name's Nick from memory, bought another establishment down in Folkestone. That is indeed correct. Yeah, I mean, look, his price tag, if he keeps on scoring, mate, if we go back in for him next summer, he's going to be 60, 70 million. Not a problem. Happy birthday for that. Happy birthday for the 14th Cyber. So, yeah, I'm 27 on the 14th. You don't look a day over 30, mate. Don't worry about it. You must moisturize. It's banter, Cyber. It's banter. Don't worry about it. Listen, when you're my age, you know, it's sort of you're past caring about shit like that. Pack stats look decent compared to what we're seeing on the pitch. Now, if you're still in, Kent, you tell her about the eye test. It ain't all about the stats. I mean, I have it on my little presentation because I cater for people that want to look at stats. And I'm interested in certain stats, but I don't sort of say that they're the be all and the end all. I'm in agreement with Kent and a number of other people that turn around and say that I don't just go on stats. It's part of my decision making. It's part of my analysis. But we can sign free agents, from what I understand, virtually any time. Because they're out of contract. My understanding is, correctly or incorrectly, that yeah, exactly that, Michael. We can sign them at any time. Was Amsterdam allegedly smuggling? No. There was none of that. There was none of that nonsense going on. Absolutely none of that. We enjoyed it. We had a couple of coffees. There was no illegal substances. Mind you, it's not illegal over there, is it? You know, the old Jamaican old Holborns. People keep saying Paquetá is world class. He then needs to be judged as such. Di Canio, he's not been world class. He's not been Premier League class. He's probably been he's probably struggling to be Championship class, if I'm being honest with you. On the back, I think he will be. I think he's succession planning. I've already said that. We've got Lee Carsley, USAF Poch. Would you want Poch in charge of England? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Rice can sing both national anthems. Yeah, well, we'll wait and see what happens there. But yeah, right. Oh yeah, and Grealish. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, they both. Well, Rice obviously played internationally for him at full level. I think he got 3 caps from memory, but it wasn't for competitive matches. Obviously, it allowed him the scope to go and play for England, and the rest is history. Yes, that is true. Loans can be an obligation to buy. That is true. I was just thinking about a straight loan, to be honest with you, Di Canio. Poch is, yeah, I mean, he's, what's he ever done? For me. I'd like to think that I don't look bad for my age. Bloody 70. Bloody cheers. My ears are disappearing. It's because I've not got the green screen up. I can't be asked to get it out. Stats can be manipulated. Yeah, exactly that. Use your eyes. That's the thing. I'm not saying ignore the stats. The stats are there to be scrutinized, but when all said and done, you need to watch a player and see what they offer, because there may be facets of their game. We actually we came back with quite a lot of cheese. Actually, they had loads of cheese shops, and I do love me cheese, I've got to say. Moyes to Everton after the international break, possible, mate. I mean, I couldn't believe what I heard after the game, that it was what. Well, not after the game. Was it before the game or after the game? I think they played before, didn't they? Whatever. What I heard was that they were 2-0 up at home against Bournemouth and lost 3-2. I mean, bloody hell. That's not good. I thought ears got bigger with age. Well, everything's big compared to you. Let's be honest, and that probably is a fair comment if I'm being honest. So, if Rice touched the ball in Whitehall like he did yesterday at Arsenal, Starmer would have given him 2 years. Yeah, well, he's he's nicking everybody at the minute. So, what are your thoughts on the stadium evacuation yesterday when Haaland's got? Do you know what? That really winds me up. I'm gonna get on my soapbox here. And some of you guys, if you were one of the guys that left, it's not like we were like 4-0 down. And even now, I mean, I stayed that 6-0 against Arsenal. I stayed to the last minute. I don't understand it. I mean, for me, I'm like, well, would you do that in a theatre? Would you do that in a cinema? You sort of bugger off 20 minutes before the end. Mate, honestly, I don't understand it. And I know there might be people watching this live or latterly that say, oh, no, I do it quite regularly and I have to, and this, that, and the other. And look, it's fine, whatever you do what you got to do. But for me, I just find it really strange that people don't, you're meant to be a supporter, but then again, maybe that's the thing. Maybe some of them are not like the dyed in the wool fans. Maybe some of them are a little bit more, what's the correct word? Fair weather fans. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I've got no particular wish for them to get relegated. I've got no particular wish for them to stay up. At the end of the day, you finish where you finish after a 38 game league season, and that's what you deserve. GP, hope you're doing well. Hope Zippy's behaving. Mr. Moon has left the building like babies throwing their toys out the pram. Yeah, there's probably a degree of that. I stayed as well. Players still got the applause at the end of the game as they should have. Yeah, they played well. I don't think I could have any complaints there. Fremmer, hope you are doing well. Hope your weekend has gone good. Stadium evacuation is part of modern football and replacement diet. I don't like it, Trodge. I don't like it. It's not a good look. You support your team to the end. And as I say, who knows if there'd have been a goal that had gone in sort of like between the 83rd and 90th plus minute, made it 3-2. I'd have absolutely, that game's back in the melting pot. Tourists, yes, tourists. Very, very, very good. Very well put. Darren's asking the question, how long do you think it will take for the new signings to gel? I think possibly that might be something that if a lot of those signings stay across the international break, that actually might be to our advantage potentially. How many of them actually, the new players actually bugger off an international duty, I'm not entirely sure. So the ones that do stay behind, it will probably be to the advantage of the manager and the head coach. Sorry, I keep calling him the manager. I'm a little bit old school, but yeah, they did earn the applause, Fred. They absolutely did. Roundtree's fruit gums, very nice, Mandy. Hope you're well. We lack a mobile striker, and we would give him a stare. Yeah, I think if we'd have had, beast mode Antonio, I think could have been quite useful. Unfortunately, what we got stuffed animal version of Antonio, and it wasn't really up to much. 10 games, yeah, possibly. They remove your. Oh yeah, I've got to have a filling done. I've got to have a filling done in a couple of weeks. Nothing wrong with tourists as long as they're Hammer fans and not passers-by. The problem is, Fremer, I think that a lot of them are the latter. I think that a lot of them are, what was it? There was the game, wasn't it, in midweek? Did you hear about this? Where you had at the West Ham Bournemouth game, you had a guy that was in the stands in full regalia, Arsenal kit. You remember the old, I think about 20 years ago, they had like a gold kit and had Sega across, and he stood there in a game that has absolutely nothing to do with Arsenal, stood there in the London Stadium watching the game unfold in front of him. And I was like, this is ridiculous. But that happens quite a lot. They did look good, Colin. You feel that we will beat them. I wish I had your optimism. I really do. Chone, appreciate it, mate. I'm probably going to wrap this up in a sec now. Anyway, I've been going for just under 55 minutes or so, which is probably longer than I expected to do. But to be fair, guys, a part of the reason that I'm here is because you've kept me sort of going. What got me yesterday, Rob says, Kent, was how many empty seats there were during where seats are white. You can see the empty seats. They go on seats sold, not. But yeah, I mean, mate, honestly, don't get me started. It's but as far as the supporters leaving are concerned early, it's never something I've advocated. It's never something I've done unless there's been a bloody good reason why. You know, like I've got to catch the train and the trains are on strike and the last trains leaves at such and such a time, and that'd be the only thing I could ever sort of use as a justification. But I don't, you know, like I say, the 6-0 game against Arsenal last season. We played Arsenal in the first season at London Stadium. I always remember this. My kids, who are obviously younger than they are now, clearly, were saying to me, "Please, Dad, we want to go. We want to go. Can we go? We're getting absolutely rogered here." There was Alexis Sanchez that was in full flow, and we were just getting a new one torn. So yeah, and I just went, no, it's character building, and they know that now. They don't even ask me, and they know what the crack is. So, what's this? Happy is a mod on all the channels. I better be careful. Is she a mod on all of them? This is interesting. So what's the attraction, Happy? Why do you like having a spanner? Why do you like waving a spanner in everybody's direction? Anyway, guys, I am going to disappear. As I say, on the West Ham webpage, the West Ham Massive YouTube channel, I'll tell you what I'm going to just quickly do. For those of you that are watching this, I'm just going to share this before I do disappear, just to sort of bring this to your attention. So I've put this on here. If any of you guys are on Facebook and you're not on the West Ham Massives Facebook page, if you go to our community page, there's a link there that will take you to our page, our Facebook page. So if you're on Facebook and you're not on this, if you could join it, I would greatly appreciate that, if you wouldn't mind. Right, so that's it from me. As I say, guys, thank you very much for your company. And if you haven't done so, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. All these actions that you can take are free of charge to you. They take a couple of seconds of your time, and they help to grow the channel from its current base onto something a little bit grander than is currently the case. Thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. Please also don't forget to consider giving your support to the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity. Come on, you Irons. We'll see you next time.
Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons.